Evan never imagined his life would change on a day that was supposed to be simple and peaceful. He was only a researcher, not a soldier, not a leader. And definitely not someone who expected to stand in front of thousands of aliens on a distant planet. He had joined the human exploration team because he loved learning about new worlds. He liked quiet work, taking notes, studying small details, and helping people understand different species. But the moment the alien spacecraft landed, he felt that this place was different, and something unusual was waiting for him. The alien world was unlike anything Evan had ever seen. Everything felt larger, brighter, and sharper. The air was filled with a strange scent, like fresh metal mixed with flowers. Giant towers made of glowing stone rose into the sky, and living creatures shaped like floating crystals drifted through the air. Evan kept staring around, trying not to look confused. The alien guides noticed his reactions and smiled politely, as if they were used to humans being surprised. The human and alien teams walked together through a long path made of silver tiles that reflected their faces. On both sides of the path, alien citizens watched with curiosity. Some looked amazed, some looked amused, and some looked like they were silently judging. Evan tried to walk normally, but his arms felt stiff, and his steps felt too heavy. He whispered to another human, "Do you think we're doing okay?" But the other person only shrugged nervously. Finally, they reached the huge open arena where the welcome ceremony would begin. Tens of thousands of aliens filled the seats around it. The arena floor glowed with soft blue light, and strange symbols floated above the stage like slow-moving birds. The sound of alien drums echoed through the air deep, rhythmic and strong enough to shake the ground. The humans were directed to stand in a line near the center, facing the alien leaders. Then she appeared. Queen Jira, ruler of the alien world, walked onto the stage with calm power. She was tall, graceful, and carried herself with complete confidence. Her eyes glowed with soft golden light, and her armor was made of a material that looked alive, shifting like water. The crowd fell silent the moment she arrived. Even the air seemed to pause. Evan felt something strange. It wasn't fear. It wasn't admiration. It was a sense that he was standing in front of someone who knew exactly who they were and what they wanted. Her presence was almost overwhelming. Evan had seen pictures of her before. Nothing prepared him for the real experience. The ceremony began with speeches from both sides. Human leaders spoke about peace, cooperation, and learning from each other. Alien elders responded with respectful words and their hopes for a better future. Everything seemed normal. Evan relaxed a bit, thinking the event would end with simple greetings and a peaceful exchange of gifts. But then something unexpected happened. A group of alien warriors entered the arena and began their traditional demonstration. They moved with incredible speed and strength, performing acrobatic spins, lifting giant stones, and showing fighting techniques that looked impossible. The audience cheered loudly. Humans watched in awe. Evan clapped politely, though he felt small compared to such power. Suddenly, the warrior stepped aside, and the queen herself walked forward. The arena became completely silent. Even the floating symbols froze in place. Queen Jera turned her golden eyes toward the humans. Her gaze slowly moved across their faces. When her eyes reached Evan, she stopped. He wasn't sure why. He looked behind him, thinking maybe she was staring at someone else. But no, she was looking directly at him. Evan felt his heart beating fast. He didn't know what to do. He tried to stand straight, but his body felt stiff again. The queen raised one hand, and the crowd waited eagerly. Then, in a clear, strong voice that echoed across the entire arena, she said the words that would change everything. "Beat me, human, and I will name you my husband." There was a moment of total silence. The kind of silence where even breathing seemed loud. Then the entire alien crowd erupted with gasps, shouts, and excited whispers. Even the floating crystal creatures buzzed in confusion. The humans looked shocked. Evan's teammates turned their heads toward him with wide eyes. One of them whispered, "Did she just say husband?" Another said, "What did you do? Did you offend her somehow?" Evan felt his face turning red. He had done absolutely nothing except stand there. The queen continued looking at him calmly, waiting for his reaction. Her face showed no anger, no humor, just certainty, as if she had already made her decision long before speaking. Evan opened his mouth, but no words came out. He felt like a child who had been called in front of the whole class for something he didn't understand. His legs felt shaky, and he wondered if he might accidentally faint in front of everyone. The human leaders exchanged nervous looks. This had not been discussed. No one had warned them that an alien queen might publicly challenge a human to some kind of duel and then propose marriage. It sounded like something from a story, not real life. Alien advisors stepped forward and began explaining the meaning behind the queen's words. They said that in their culture, such a challenge was not a threat. It was a test of courage, spirit, and worthiness. To beat the queen did not always mean to overpower her in physical combat. It could involve different kinds of trial, strength, wisdom, endurance, or even character. It depended entirely on the queen's choice. Humans listened carefully, but they were still shocked. The idea of a queen choosing a husband through trials was strange enough. The idea that she had chosen a human, and specifically Evan, was beyond surprising. Evan felt the weight of thousands of eyes on him. Some aliens looked excited. Some looked doubtful. Some looked amused, as if they thought the human had no chance. Evan wasn't sure if he should speak or stay quiet. He wished he had a guidebook titled "What to Do When an Alien Queen Publicly Chooses You." The queen took a step forward, her gaze still fixed on him. Her presence felt both intimidating and somehow comforting. She spoke again, this time more softly, but still loud enough for everyone to hear. "You carry a light inside you. I saw it when you first set foot on our land." Evan blinked. A light inside him. What did that even mean? He was just a normal person who liked studying small insects and writing reports. The queen continued. "Our customs demand that I choose someone who shows courage not with pride but with sincerity. You show sincerity." Evan had no idea how she figured that out. He could barely stand straight at the moment. The crowd murmured again, discussing her words. Some seemed to agree. Others looked curious. A few looked confused, trying to understand what quality the queen had sensed. Evan felt overwhelmed. He knew this moment was important, not only for him but for both worlds. Whatever he said or did next would be remembered for a long time. The queen extended her hand slightly, as if inviting him to step forward. Evan's stomach felt tight, and his hands were shaking. But he also felt something else, a strange mix of responsibility and curiosity. He hadn't asked for this, but he could feel the seriousness of the queen's intentions. She wasn't trying to mock him. She wasn't playing a game. She truly believed in what she had said. Evan took a slow breath. He felt like his feet were moving on their own as he stepped forward, one tiny step at a time. The entire arena watched in complete silence. No one blinked. No one breathed loudly. Evan stood before the queen, close enough to see the faint glow in her eyes. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know what she expected him to say. He didn't know what kind of challenge she would give him. All he knew was that his life had changed forever the moment she spoke those unexpected words. And, as the air around them buzzed with tension and curiosity, Evan realized that this was only the beginning of a story he never thought he would be part of. Evan could still hear the queen's words echoing inside his mind as he stood in the center of the arena. The noise of the crowd slowly returned, whispers, murmurs, surprised reactions, but all of it felt distant to him, like he was hearing it through thick glass. He wasn't sure how he was supposed to react. His heart was beating too fast, and he felt a strange mixture of fear, confusion, and disbelief. How could the queen choose him, out of all people? The humans and aliens soon moved to a private chamber behind the arena. It was large, filled with glowing pillars and smooth stone seats that shaped themselves to whoever sat on them. Even now, Evan struggled to understand the technology of this world. Everything felt alive, as if the building itself was listening. Human leaders surrounded him with worried expressions. "Evan, did you speak with her before this? Did you do anything unusual?" One of them asked, almost in a whisper. Evan raised his hands quickly. "No, I didn't even talk to her. I only looked around like everyone else." Another leader sighed and rubbed his forehead. This is unexpected. Extremely unexpected. The alien advisors entered the room with calm confidence. They looked like tall, gentle scholars with silver markings on their skin. One of them approached the humans and spoke with a soft voice. Please do not be alarmed. The Queen's challenge is not meant to harm your visitor. It is a matter of tradition. Human leaders nodded politely, but it was clear they were still anxious. Everyone glanced at Evan, who sat quietly, wondering why fate had decided to pick on him today. The alien advisor continued. Queen Jira does not challenge lightly. She chooses with deep thought. Her offer carries honor, not danger. Evan leaned forward. Why me? I don't understand. I'm not special. The alien advisor studied him with curious eyes. That is exactly why she chose you. This answer only confused Evan more. He wondered if he had stepped into a world where nothing made sense. He waited for an explanation, hoping someone would finally tell him something clear. Before anyone could speak further, the doors to the chamber opened, and Queen Jira entered. The room instantly fell silent. Her presence made everyone straighten up, even those who had been sitting. She walked with a calm, steady grace that made even the shifting lights bend slightly, as if greeting their ruler. Evan felt his stomach tighten again. The Queen looked directly at him from across the room, and he had the sudden urge to check if he had accidentally done something wrong. Earlier, maybe stepped on a royal flower or touched something forbidden. But no, she didn't look angry. She looked thoughtful. Queen Jira approached the group and spoke with a gentle but strong tone. You all wish to know why I chose him. Human leaders stayed respectful. The alien advisors bowed their heads slightly. Evan sat frozen, unable to guess what she would say next. The Queen turned toward Evan. When you stepped onto our land, I watched you. You were not afraid of our size or our strange world. You were curious. Your heart moved before your fear did. Evan blinked. That didn't sound right at all. He had been terrified the entire time. But maybe he hid it well, she continued. When others tried to hide their discomfort, you allowed yourself to feel it. When they tried to appear strong, you accepted your smallness without shame. My people value honesty of spirit. Evan wasn't sure if he should feel flattered or embarrassed. He had simply been confused and overwhelmed, like any normal person. The Queen walked closer until she stood only a few steps away from him. My choice was not random. My choice was not a mistake. I saw sincerity in you, human. Evan swallowed hard. But I'm not a fighter. I'm not strong like your people. If your challenge is a battle, I can't win. I don't want to disrespect your traditions. Queen Jira shook her head slowly. Strength is only one path. That is why my challenge has many trials. Some require thought. Some require patience. Some require courage that does not come from muscles. Evan felt a small wave of relief, though he was still nervous. At least he wouldn't be expected to wrestle a giant. Alien Queen in front of thousands. The Queen then spoke to the human leaders. Know this, my offer is not forced. If he refuses, no harm will come. But refusing means turning away from an extraordinary path. The words felt heavy. Evan knew this decision wasn't only about him. It could affect the relationship between humans and aliens. If he refused, it could seem like an insult, even if they said it wouldn't, if he accepted. He had to face challenges he couldn't even imagine yet. When the Queen left the chamber, Evan finally exhaled. One of the human leaders placed a hand on his shoulder. Evan, we will support you no matter what you decide. But I think you should at least hear more about what this challenge involves. Another human whispered. Honestly, you should write a book if you survive this. It would be the strangest story in history. Ivan tried to smile, but his mind was too full of thoughts. Later that day, Ivan was guided to a peaceful courtyard behind the royal palace. The place was beautiful, filled with glowing trees and flowers that hummed softly when touched by the wind. A small fountain made of floating stones released water that glowed like blue light. Evan sat on a smooth bench, feeling calmer than earlier. An alien historian joined him. She was old, gentle, and wise-looking, with markings on her skin that showed she had seen many seasons. She sat beside him and began explaining the Queen's culture in simple words. she said. Our queens do not choose partners for beauty or battle skill. They choose someone who can balance their strength, someone who can calm them when needed, someone who sees the world differently. Evan listened closely. She added, a queen is trained to be strong for her people. But strength alone cannot guide a kingdom. She must choose a partner who has the courage to stand beside her, not behind her and not in front of her. Evan slowly nodded. He finally understood a little. Then he asked, but why announce it in front of everyone? Why not talk to me privately first? The historian gave a small smile. Because that is our tradition. A queen makes her choice publicly, so her people know she has nothing to hide. Her challenge is open for all to witness. Evan looked down at his hands. He wished the choice had been private. It would have been less frightening. The historian continued, do not fear the tests. They will show your character, not your strength. The queen does not expect you to defeat her with force. Evan felt slightly better hearing this, though he still had no idea what the tests would be like. He imagined puzzles, endurance tasks, maybe even strange alien traditions. But whatever they were, he sensed they would not be easy. Later, as the sun of the alien world began to set, turning the sky into shades of gold and purple, Evan walked alone through the courtyard. He replayed the queen's words in his mind. She had spoken with complete certainty, as if she truly believed he was special. It was strange to hear such confidence from someone so powerful. Evan had always felt average. He wasn't a hero, not brave, not strong. He was a researcher who liked quiet spaces and learning new things. But now he realized something important. Maybe the queen saw something in him that he had never seen in himself. Maybe. The challenge wasn't about proving he was strong. Maybe. It was about discovering who he really was, as night settled over the alien world and tiny glowing insects floated through the air like stars. Evan stood still and took a deep breath. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew he couldn't run away. Not now. Not when the queen had chosen him for a reason he didn't yet understand. A new path had opened in front of him, one he never planned for, but one he felt strangely drawn toward. And he knew this was only the beginning of the journey. The next morning arrived faster than Evan expected. He barely slept. His mind had been too full of questions, worries, and even a bit of excitement. He kept imagining the thousands of eyes watching him, the queen's calm expression, and the strange weight of her words. Now, as the two suns of the alien world slowly rose in the sky, he knew the moment he feared was coming. A gentle knock sounded on his door. When he opened it, an alien attendant stood there. Unlike the warriors, this attendant looked soft and peaceful, with blue markings that glowed faintly. The queen is expecting you, she said with a warm tone. Evan nodded slowly. His legs felt heavy, but he followed her through long hallways made of shining crystal walls. Every corridor hummed with energy, and strange patterns moved like living art inside the walls. He tried to admire the beauty, but his heart was pounding too loudly. The attendant led him to a large open area behind the palace. It was not an arena. It was more like a training ground mixed with a peaceful garden. The ground was soft and glowed faintly. Large stones floated in the air like decorations. Trees with long silver leaves swayed even though there was no wind. Queen Jera stood in the center, waiting. She wasn't wearing her ceremonial armor. Today she looked less like a ruler preparing for a grand event and more like a teacher ready to begin a lesson. Seeing her in this calm environment made Evan feel slightly less nervous. You have come, she said softly as he approached. Evan nodded. I didn't want to disrespect your invitation. The queen tilted her head slightly, studying him. Fear and respect often walk together. But you came anyway. That already shows courage. Us. Evan didn't feel courageous. He felt like someone walking into a test without knowing the subject. But he didn't say that. He just took a slow breath and tried to stay steady. Queen Jera gestured toward the open space. Our people have many traditions. The challenge I give you today will not be a battle of strength. It will be a test of spirit. Evan felt a tiny wave of relief. At least he wouldn't have to fight her physically. But he still didn't know what kind of test she meant. The queen lifted her hand, and the floating stones around them began to move. They drifted slowly through the air, forming different shapes, circles, lines, then symbols Evan couldn't read. He watched in awe. "Your first trial," she said, "is endurance of the mind." A large glowing stone moved toward Evan and floated inches from his face. It hummed softly, like a distant song. The queen explained, "This stone holds our ancient memories. When touched, it shares visions of our past. But seeing too much can overwhelm the mind. Your task is simple. Touch the stone and remain calm for as long as you can." Evan swallowed. "What happens if I can't stay calm?" "You step back," she said gently. "There is no harm in that. But the longer you last, the more your spirit shows its strength." Evan hesitated. Then he reached out and placed his hand on the stone. The moment his fingers touched its surface, surroundings melted away. He saw flashes of Seen-style alien warriors training, massive flying creatures soaring in the sky, ancient cities rising from the ground. Then he saw the queen as a child, learning to stand. He saw her as a young warrior, facing challenges with fire in her eyes. The visions came faster and faster, like a river rushing through his mind. His breathing grew uneven. His heart raced. He felt dizzy. He tried to pull back, but he remembered the queen's words, "Remain calm." He forced himself to breathe slowly. He tried to focus on one image at a time. When the visions grew overwhelming, he closed his eyes and imagined the quiet earth he knew, the calm forests. The soft sound of rain, slowly the rush of visions softened. His breathing steadied. When he finally opened his eyes, the queen was watching him with surprise. "Most who take this trial pull away after only a heartbeat," she said. "You lasted far longer." Evan stepped back, relieved to find he still had his balance. It felt like living another life. "That is the purpose," she said. "To understand the weight of history." Evan wasn't sure he understood everything he saw, but he did feel something, like he had walked through memories that didn't belong to him, but were now part of him. The queen nodded for him to follow her to the next area of the garden. A gentle breeze began to move the silver leaves of the trees. Evan noticed small crystal birds perched on branches, watching them with bright eyes. "Your second trial," she said, "is focus." She pointed to a long path of stepping stones floating in the air. They moved slowly, shifting positions like a puzzle. Evan looked at them, then looked at her. "I'm supposed to walk on those?" "Yes," she said simply. "Walk without falling. The stones respond to your focus. If your mind is calm, they remain steady. If your mind panics, they move." Evan stared. "That sounds very impossible." The queen gave a small smile. "Most things seem impossible until the mind accepts its own strength." Evan took a deep breath and stepped onto the first floating stone. It wobbled slightly, froze. The stone steadied. He moved to the next one. It tilted dangerously. He flailed his arms, trying to regain balance. The stone steadied again. He moved slowly, step by step. The stones kept shifting, as if testing his mind. At one point he almost slipped, but he focused on breathing, calming his thoughts. Each time he felt fear rising, he pushed it down and focused on the path. When he reached the last stone, he jumped down to the solid ground with relief. Sweat covered his forehead. His legs felt weak. But he had done it. Queen Jira looked impressed. "You walked with fear, yet you did not let fear guide you." Evan sat on the ground, trying to catch his breath. "Do all your people do this?" "Yes," she said. "Even our children practice focus from a young age." Evan laughed softly. "Human children practice running in playgrounds, not whatever this is." The queen chuckled, a soft sound that surprised him. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. Every world has its own ways. For the final challenge, she led him to a calm, quiet pool of water. It was clear and still, reflecting the sky above. The area felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. Evan wondered if the last trial would be easy, but the queen's expression became serious again. "Your final trial today is not strength or focus. It is patience." Evan frowned. "Patience." She nodded. "Sit by the water. You will wait until the pool shows you a sign. It may take moments or hours. Only those who are patient can hear the quiet messages of the world. Evan wasn't entirely sure what that meant, but he sat down by the water. The queen stood nearby, silent and still. Minutes passed. The pool remained calm. More minutes passed. Nothing changed. Evan grew restless, but he forced himself to stay still. He tried focusing on the gentle sounds around him, the rustling leaves, the distant hum of energy, the soft chirps of crystal birds. Slowly, his mind began to relax. He felt less tense. He felt more present. After what felt like an hour, something finally happened. The water rippled gently. A soft light rose from beneath the surface. It wasn't bright. It wasn't loud. It was simply a quiet glow, like a small signal. Evan looked at the queen. She nodded. "The pool has accepted you," Evan exhaled deeply. He hadn't realized how long he'd been holding his breath. "You have completed all 3 trials," she said. "Your performance was honest, sincere, and full of effort." Evan stood slowly, still feeling the calm energy of the pool. "I didn't do everything perfectly," he said. "You were not meant to," the queen replied. "Perfection is not the goal of these trials. Truth is." Evan realized then that the tests weren't about winning or showing off. They were about showing who he truly was. Even with his fears and weaknesses, as the queen began walking him back toward the palace, she said something that stayed with him forever. "You have shown more spirit today than many warriors have shown in their entire lives." Evan didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. He had earned the queen's respect, and his journey was far from over. Evan woke up the next morning feeling sore in places he never knew could hurt. His legs felt heavy from balancing on floating stones. His mind felt exhausted from the memory visions, and his body felt drained from the endless waiting by the glowing water. But even with all this tiredness, there was a strange new feeling growing inside him, a feeling he could only describe as quiet confidence. For the first time since arriving on the alien world, he felt like he belonged in the story that was unfolding around him soon. An alien attendant arrived to guide him to the queen again. This time, the place they walked to wasn't a garden or a training area. It was a tall tower made of clear crystal that shimmered like morning snow. As Evan entered, he noticed that the tower had no stairs. Instead, the floor lifted them like a soft platform and carried them upward. Stopping at the very top where Queen Jira waited, she stood beside a large window that showed the whole kingdom below. The view was breathtaking. Floating bridges, connected towers made of glowing stone. Large creatures with smooth wings glided through the blue sky. Rivers of light flowed through the city like glowing threads. The world looked peaceful from above, but Evan knew this was a powerful kingdom with traditions older than humanity's oldest histories. The queen turned toward him with a soft expression. "You completed the first set of trials. Today you will face a different kind." Evan nodded slowly. "More tests of the mind?" "No," she said. "Today's trials measure your heart." Evan blinked. "My heart?" She gestured for him to follow her. They stepped out onto a balcony made of shining stone that extended into the air. The gentle wind brushed against their clothes as they walked. "You see the world from up here," she said, "but today you must understand the people in it." Before Evan could ask what she meant, several alien citizens entered the balcony: elders, workers, young students, and even a small child with glowing markings on her forehead. They surrounded Evan with curious eyes. The queen stood behind him, watching silently. One of the elders stepped forward. His face was lined with age, and his voice was gentle. "Human visitor, today you must show how well you can understand the hearts of others." The child tilted her head and asked, "Do humans feel fear like we do?" Evan nodded softly. "Yes, and I feel fear now too." The aliens exchanged looks, some surprised, some impressed. The queen said, "You will now walk through our marketplace. You will face questions, confusion, and the beliefs of my people. How you respond will show your heart." Evan felt nervous, but he agreed. He followed a group of aliens down the tower and into the city's main marketplace. The area was large and lively, filled with glowing stalls, floating carts, and creatures selling fruits that sparkled. People looked at Evan as if he were a rare creature on display. Normally, that would have made him uncomfortable, but after everything he had gone through, he felt steadier. A merchant approached him first. She held a fruit that looked like a shining blue orb. "Human," she said, "our queen sees something strong in you. Why do you think she chose you?" Evan hesitated. "I don't know exactly, but maybe she saw that I want to understand your world, not judge it." The merchant nodded slowly. "Honesty is rare, even among us." Another alien stepped forward, a tall warrior with sharp markings on his arms. He looked serious and curious at the same time. "If the queen becomes your partner," he said, "you will share our kingdom. Are you prepared to live far from your own world?" Evan thought carefully before answering. "I don't know what the future will look like, but I believe the best choices are made step by step. If I reach that point, I will think with clarity, not fear." The warrior looked pleased with his answer. More aliens approached him, some young and excited, others older and skeptical. A teacher asked him, "Human, what will you offer our queen?" Evan replied, "Not strength of muscles, not power, but support, understanding, and honesty." A young girl with bright eyes asked him, "Do humans laugh?" Evan smiled slightly. "Yes, and sometimes they laugh for no reason." The girl giggled happily. As time passed, Evan found himself relaxing. The questions became easier to answer. The aliens began to smile at him instead of watching him with uncertainty. He realized that this trial wasn't about impressing them. It was about showing who he truly was, just like the queen had said. After the marketplace visit, he was guided to a quiet area near a river that flowed like a glowing ribbon. The queen waited for him there, standing under a tall crystal tree whose leaves shone like tiny stars. "You spoke with my people," she said. "Tell me how you feel now." Evan sat on a smooth rock beside the river. "Your people are curious. They're warm, even if they hide it at first. They ask questions not to test me, but to understand me." The queen nodded. "You answered truthfully. That matters more than giving perfect answers." Evan looked at her carefully. "Was this trial about proving that I respect your people?" "Partly," she said. "But more than that, I needed to see how your heart reacts to pressure, not created by fear, but by emotion." Evan thought about that. "Your people want to know if I can walk beside them." "Exactly," she replied. They walked along the glowing river. The water made soft, shimmering sounds, like tiny bells underwater. The queen slowed her steps, as if carefully choosing her next words. "You have shown sincerity," she said quietly. "But the final part of today's trial is not for the city. It is for me." Evan turned to her, surprised. "For you?" She nodded, her expression becoming gentle. "A queen must choose someone who can understand her, not just her strength, but her burdens." Evan listened closely. She continued, "My life is filled with responsibilities. Decisions that affect millions rest on my shoulders. Even when I stand tall, there are days when the weight feels heavy." For the first time since Evan met her, the queen looked almost vulnerable, not weak, but human in her emotions. She stepped closer to him. "Tell me, Evan, when someone carries a burden, they cannot show the world. What should a partner do?" Evan didn't answer immediately. He thought about his own life, his own struggles, the quiet days where he felt unseen. Then he looked at her. "He should stand beside her," Evan said softly. "Not to take the weight away, but to help her breathe through it, to listen, to remind her she's not alone." The queen's eyes softened. The golden glow in them seemed warmer. "And if the burden becomes too heavy?" "Then he should remind her," Evan said, "that even a queen is allowed to rest sometimes." For a long moment, the queen said nothing. The only sound was the gentle hum of the river. Then she spoke with a voice filled with quiet emotion. "You speak with a heart that listens before it speaks. That is a rare gift." Evan felt a warmth fill his chest. He didn't know whether he was passing her tests or simply living through them. But something inside him said he was on the right path. As the suns began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and violet, the queen led him back to the palace. They stood on a balcony overlooking the kingdom. You have completed the trials of the heart, she said. Tomorrow, the final test awaits. Evan looked at her, feeling a strange mix of fear and anticipation. Will it be difficult? The Queen gave a small, meaningful smile. Not difficult, but important. More important than anything so far? Evan nodded slowly, feeling his heartbeat quicken. The journey he was on no longer felt like a mistake or an accident. It felt like something he was meant to face, and he knew the final test would decide everything. Evan stood alone on the balcony of the alien palace, watching the twin suns rise slowly over the wide green plains. The air on the alien world was warm and soft, and it carried a gentle hum from the glowing plants that covered the ground below. He had seen many sunrises in his life, but none felt as heavy as this one. Today was the day he had to give the Queen his final answer. Would he accept her offer and stand beside her as a partner between the two worlds, or would he walk away and return home to Earth? He took a deep breath and held the railing tightly. Ever since the challenge had ended, he had felt as if the whole universe was quietly watching him. Everywhere he walked inside the palace, the alien people looked at him with interest and respect. The humans who came with him also watched, whispering among themselves, waiting for him to decide. It was a lot for one person. He had never imagined he would face something so important. At first, he had only come to this world to learn and share knowledge. And now, somehow, he had become the center of a moment that could change the future of two species. Evan remembered the Queen's calm face when she explained the meaning of her offer. She had not spoken with pressure or force. She had simply shared her truth, giving him time to think. She believed their worlds could build peace together, and she believed he had the qualities to help guide that peace. Not because he was strong or famous or powerful, but because he understood people. Because he listened. Because he tried to solve problems with patience instead of anger. In her eyes, this made him worthy of standing beside her. He thought about all the moments that brought him here, the surprise challenge, the tests, the Queen's words, and the unexpected connection growing between them. He thought about how different their worlds were, but also how similar their hopes were. Both humans and aliens wanted safety, trust, and a future where their children would not fear the unknown. He wondered if he truly had the strength to take on this responsibility. He wondered if he was the right person. But every time doubt filled his mind, he remembered the Queen's steady voice saying, "Strength is not in muscle. It is in the choices you make each day." The sound of soft footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. When he turned, he saw one of the Queen's trusted advisors walking toward him. The advisor bowed respectfully and said, "The Queen is waiting in the Hall of Harmony. She wished to tell you that there is no rush, but she will be there whenever you are ready." Evan nodded, feeling his heart beat a little faster. "Thank you," he said quietly. The advisor left, and Evan looked at the sunrise once more. He closed his eyes and took a slow breath. Then, with a steady step, he walked back inside. The palace hallways were bright with flowing lights that moved gently along the walls like living ribbons. The alien architecture was elegant and peaceful, built from smooth crystal-like stone. As Evan walked through the hall, he saw two guards bow slightly to him. Their expressions were warm, not strict. He wondered if they truly believed he would accept. He wondered if the Queen believed it too. When he entered the Hall of Harmony, he found it quiet and open, filled with tall windows that let in the morning light. Queen Jarrah stood near the center of the room. She was looking at a glowing map that floated in the air, showing both the alien world and Earth side by side. Her cloak shimmered softly, and her posture was steady and calm. She turned when she sensed him enter. Her expression was welcoming, not demanding. "Good morning, Evan," she said in her deep and gentle voice. "I hope you rested well." "I tried," Evan said with a small smile, though his hands were slightly tense. The Queen nodded slowly. "I understand. Thinking about the future can sometimes feel heavier than lifting a mountain. You were not asked to choose quickly." Evan stepped closer. "I know. And I'm thankful you gave me time." The Queen studied him quietly, giving him space to speak. She did not rush him. She never did. Evan felt the weight in his chest become words. "I've been thinking a lot," he began, "about what this means for me, for your people, and for mine." I never expected something like this to happen. But I also didn't expect to understand this world as much as I do now. Jira listened closely, her eyes calm and encouraging. I'm not a leader, Evan continued, and I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who wanted to learn. But because of everything that has happened, I've learned that maybe that's enough. Maybe trying to understand others is the most important part of leading anything. The Queen gave a small, approving nod. Evan let out a slow breath. So, I've decided. If you still believe I'm the right person, then I will accept. I will stand beside you. Not as someone perfect or powerful, but as someone willing to help create peace between our worlds. The Queen's eyes brightened with gentle pride. She stepped forward and placed her hand over her heart, a gesture of deep respect in her culture. Your decision honors both our worlds, she said softly. I did not choose you for perfection. I chose you because you see value in others. That is the heart of leadership, and that is what our future needs. Evan felt a warmth spread through his chest. The Queen extended her hand to him not as a command, but as an invitation. He took it, feeling the strength and warmth of her palm. The moment felt stable and filled with meaning. Suddenly, the doors of the hall opened, and advisors from both sides entered. Some were human diplomats, and others were alien counselors. They had all been waiting nearby, prepared for any outcome but unsure what to expect. When they saw Evan and the Queen standing together, hand in hand, a soft murmur spread through the room. The expressions were not of shock this time, but of hope. Queen Jira lifted her voice so everyone could hear. Today, she said, we begin a new chapter. Our worlds will walk forward together. And this human, she continued, turning slightly toward Evan, will help us guide that path. The room filled with respectful applause from both species. The humans smiled with relief, and the aliens bowed with deep respect. Evan felt overwhelmed, but in a peaceful way. He realized he was not standing alone. He was surrounded by two worlds, ready to move forward. Later that day, a grand gathering took place in the city square. Thousands of aliens gathered, their bodies glowing with patterns of celebration. The humans who came with Evan stood among them, amazed by the beautiful energy of the event. The Queen and Evan stood on a high platform so everyone could see them. Queen Jira spoke to the crowd, her voice carrying strength and warmth. She explained the meaning of their partnership and how it would bring peace and unity. When she finished, the crowd let out a soft, harmonious sound that echoed across the entire city. It was a sound of agreement, trust, and hope. Evan looked out over the crowd, feeling something he had never felt before, a mix of responsibility, courage, and belonging. He knew there would be challenges in the future. Peace was not something built in a single moment, but he also knew he would not face those challenges alone. He had the Queen beside him, two worlds supporting the future they were building. As the celebration continued, Evan allowed himself to smile freely. He had come to this world as a researcher, expecting to learn something small. But instead, he had become part of something bigger than he ever imagined, something that would shape history. And so, under the twin suns, standing beside the Queen who believed in him, Evan took his first step into a future where humans and aliens would walk forward as partners because of one unexpected challenge that changed everything.